Right, we're back for our video where we're comparing the two exams, CELPIP and IELTS. So CELPIP is the Canadian English Language Proficiency Index program, and the IELTS is the International English Language Testing System. So the similarities between the two exams are fairly simple. Both exams have the same 4 sections: listening, reading, writing and speaking, although there are subtle and in some cases very prominent differences in between both of these exams. Today's comparison is to try and determine what appears to be a more convenient exam, IELTS or CELPIP. Both are the two options to go for permanent residency or PR in Canada. Understanding CELPIP, CELPIP has a reading section which is of 55 to 60 minutes, listening section of 47 to 55 minutes, writing from 53 to 60 minutes, and speaking of 15 to 20 minutes. The range given in the timing is because this is a computer-based test, and in a computer-based test, depending on the total number of questions, there might be a slight individual differentiation in the total timing, and because it's a computer-based test, the timings are in ranges and not in specific numbers. In case of IELTS, we have 30 minutes for the reading section, and there are 10 minutes which are added on later to transfer the answers to the answer sheet, so 40 minutes in totality, where we have to attempt 40 questions. In the listening section in CELPIP, where we are having 55 minutes approximately, it's 55 minutes, there we are having to do 38 questions. This is of 6 different types, so there are 6 types of questions. In each type there might be 6 to 7 questions on an average, and a total of 38 questions. Comparatively, a little more time is being given in the listening section in CELPIP as compared to IELTS. The reading section is 60 minutes in IELTS for 40 questions. Here also we have roughly got 60 minutes, and this is for 38 questions. 4 different types of questions are there in the reading section in the CELPIP, and in IELTS there are 3 to 4 passages. There are 3 to 4 passages, each passage with its own set of questions. But in CELPIP, everything is not passage based, because most of the questions here are only multiple choice questions. You won't really have to write anything because it's completely a computer based test. So that is why there is going to be mainly multiple choice questions, and the different types. There are some which are based on understanding a correspondence, some which are based on understanding pictographs or diagrams. More into the specific details of each of the modules, we'll be doing further videos where we'll be analyzing one-on-one reading versus reading and writing versus writing and so on. This is just a basic overview of the entirety of the two tests. Coming back to the scoring part, there's a difference in the scoring as well. IELTS scores out of 9 bands, which are later on converted into CLBs for your PR, which is the Canadian Language Benchmark. The usual requirement for PR is CLB 9, which is roughly converted into an 8 in listening and 7 each in reading, writing, speaking in IELTS. CELPIP, what it does better is it gives you these scores exactly in CLBs. So if you need a CLB 9, you just need a score of 9 in each of the modules in order to get the CLBs, and they score a total out of 12. The highest you can get in CELPIP is 12, and 9 is what is your requirement for your Canadian PR purposes. Writing, in both the cases there are 2 tasks. There are 2 tasks for writing even in IELTS and 2 even in CELPIP, but the content of each of the tasks is slightly different, and again more discussions into that later. The speaking test for IELTS is held on a separate day. It's a 15-minute roughly interview which is held on a one-on-one basis. There is no human interference in CELPIP. There's going to be no face-to-face interview that's going to happen for CELPIP. It is going to be on the computer only. There's going to be questions in form of a prompt. You're supposed to read the questions, and then you're supposed to record your responses on the microphones. And the total test for CELPIP is held in one single sitting, and it's going to be roughly a 3-hour 15-minute test. IELTS will be held on 2 different days: a 2-hour 45-minute test, 2-hour 40-minute test roughly on day 1, where you have in the listening, reading, writing, and another 15-minute roughly interview for the speaking, which happens on a separate day. So that is another major advantage. With CELPIP, you are getting the results in 8 days, and for IELTS, the results are available in 13 days. In CELPIP, it also gives you the option to pay extra and get express results within 3 days. The CELPIP exam currently is only held in Chandigarh, and in India it costs 200 Canadian dollars. The IELTS exam costs 13,300, I'm sorry. 13,300 for the computer-based, and 12,650 for the paper-based, because there is a computer-based version of IELTS also available, which is conducted by the IDP. The British Council yet does not have a computer-based IELTS program in India, but still, the speaking, irrespective of whether it's computer-based IELTS or paper-based IELTS, is held face-to-face in an interview. So that's one of the major advantages with CELPIP, that you have no human interference, which makes slightly, you can say, the speaking is a little easier. Another major thing to point out, we'll go into this more in detail in our individual videos on the specific sections, but the CELPIP writing gives you a spell checker, which becomes a very, very important thing for most of our day-to-day activities now, because we are very used to spell checkers for writing emails or even on our phones, and that is why CELPIP gives us a considerable advantage in that regard. So just looking at the overall overview, CELPIP seems to be a little more practical exam, slight more timings held on one single day. Results are comparatively a little faster. Cost of the exam almost the same, and with some individual nuances and advantages in some areas. The broad area is CELPIP might be the new talk of town and might become a very important exam for all PR purposes in Canada. The later videos are going to do a proper detailed one-on-one review of the individual sections. So happy studying.